Merry Times Zone friends, it's Matt here today bringing you another gardening vlog for the channel. As you can see behind me, we've got all of our houseplants out because today we're doing a houseplant tour. We're going to have a look at all the different green creatures we have back here, have a look at what they're called, when I got them, how they're doing, and we're even going to repot a couple of them that definitely need doing. So without further ado, grab your cuppers and settle in. I have been collecting houseplants since April 2023, as I learned today. I was going through and finding pictures so that I could get you some information and show you what they looked like when I first got them, and I hadn't quite realised that the last 2 years have already gone by, and to be honest, I'm really proud of myself that I haven't gone overboard. This is my entire collection over the last 2 years, and I definitely have wanted to buy more, don't get me wrong. I have had to restrain myself many times at the garden centre, looking at all the cute things and being like, I could put one of those over here, one of them over there. But I've definitely been trying to use this as a learning process as well as just having pretty greenery around. I've been trying to make sure I do it right and not just rush into getting a bunch of plants and then they all die. I have had some issues along the way, some things which I'm still kind of learning about now. It's also been a really, really beautiful process, seeing these creatures just grow and thrive, and knowing that some of these are up to 2 years old and they're still going. It makes me so, so happy. I've always kind of wanted to have greenery around me, and it's surprising because I'm not the kind of person who's ever really enjoyed being outside, at least not until my adult years. I have very much been stuck inside because of anxiety, depression, and kicking in agoraphobia, which made me not want to go outside at all. And I've always been kind of an introvert, stuck inside my house kind of thing. But over the years, I've just kind of learned that being outside is actually so much better than I thought it was. Just having greenery around me makes me so happy. I'm looking at the plants behind the camera right now, and it's making me smile looking at all of the green things around. So it's definitely one of those things that I've kind of come to get used to over the years. And I have to say, it is one of the best hobbies I've ever picked up. I have learned a lot in the last 2 years, and there's a lot I still have left to learn. Trust me, I do not know everything there is to know about houseplants, but I have learned a lot that I didn't know this time 2 years ago. So I wanted to kind of show you guys what I have, and sort of just talk about the process over the last couple of years as I've been getting things and things I still need to figure out, and the process of some things. And then we have some work to do as well, because some of my plants need repotting, some of them need checking, and we need to do a little bit of overall maintenance of everything. So we're going to hang out together and have a look at our different plants. So let me start by introducing you to the first houseplant that I had from my collection that I got back on April 21st in 2023. That's how I know it's been over 2 years. My first ever houseplant. I'm going to grab them right here. My Boston Fern, Harrie. So I do not know the actual Latin name for Boston Fern, but that's what I believe this is. It's how it was labelled when I got it, and I always kind of wanted a fern. It was one of the first ones I ever wanted. There were a lot of different kinds that I did want, and still am yet to get. Don't get me wrong, I have got a lot more plans for houseplants in the future, but one of the first things I ever wanted was a Boston Fern, and it was one of the things that I heard at the very beginning of my journey was one of the easiest ones to take care of for an amateur. Whether or not I particularly agree with that, I'm not certain. Harrie has definitely been a little temperamental over the time that I've had her, but it's definitely been nice to have her around, and I absolutely have got a lot left to learn and a lot of maintenance to do on Harrie right now. I am still trying to get the right balance in this new house of light, temperature and humidity, because my room where I would keep all of my plants is a north facing bedroom, so it does mean we don't get the best light throughout the day. When I first moved in, I did have them sat in the middle of my room out of the way, but they weren't really getting that much light during the winter, so I moved them to sit basically in my window to get as much light as possible. And I know at very least the one thing I'm not at risk of is direct light scorching the leaves, because being north facing, it doesn't get any direct light. There is no sun blasting down to burn the leaves, which is fantastic. She has had a tendency of getting quite leggy, where it goes really, really long stems and not a lot of leaf coverage. There's a lot of quite bushy leaves in here, but considering this is 2 years worth of growth, I can absolutely see where she's come from when I got her to now, and I'll put a picture on screen of the first day that I got her back home so you can see the difference between then and where she is right now. But I do think there's probably a lot that I can do to help her out. And if you guys at any point have any advice to me, I would absolutely be willing to take that on. As always in these gardening videos, I am just an amateur and an enthusiast, a hobbyist. This is not at all in any way a expert's guide to houseplants or gardening. It's just little old me enjoying having greenery in my space. So I would absolutely not take everything I say as gospel. But we are going to be doing some maintenance today with certain things like this that are just breaking off, just some like dead little leaves and stuff. We need to do a good bit of maintenance. This is one thing that I've had as the major problem. Having these dead dry bits just kind of grow through. I am not entirely sure what it is that's causing these to go dry. One of the things I found most difficult with troubleshooting these issues myself is that a lot of websites will say things like it could be too much sun or it could be not enough sun. It could be too much water or it could be not enough water. And sometimes it's really hard for me to be able to tell whether or not like it's underwatered or overwatered. But it's always been the same consistent problem of browning leaves. And one of the things I've always tried to make sure is that the humidity in my room is the right humidity. I believe it's around 50 to 60% humidity is about right for most of my houseplants, because a lot of the ones I have are more tropical kind of plants and they like a slightly higher humidity. But whenever I've had my humidity and temperature gauge in my room, it's almost always been the correct humidity. So I'm not entirely certain that that's the issue, but perhaps it's a temperature thing. Maybe I am getting my watering wrong. From my understanding, a general rule of thumb to know if you've watered enough or if it needs any more water is if you put your finger or thumb like an inch down in the soil. If it's dry, it needs watering. If it's damp, it's okay. Harrie, as I say, has been a little bit temperamental, so we're going to see if we can help her out a bit today. There's a lot of brown stuff over on this side particularly, so we're going to sort of take off some of the dead leaves and give her a little bit of a makeover today, just kind of, help her out. One of my favorite things to do with my houseplants is to name them, and I don't know why I love it so much, but it's kind of like naming your children. You have pets, you give them names. You have children, you give them names. These are my little green babies and I give them names as well, and it just brings me joy to do so. So if anybody's curious where the name Harrie comes from, I have been a writer kind of on and off over the years. I say I'm a writer, I'm not really a published author, but I like to write. I have always enjoyed it, and one of my original characters I made back in school when we were writing some things for our creative courses was a character that appeared in several of my short stories, called Fern, and in my head she's this brave, courageous girl, kind of Peter Pan vibes with like the green hat, the striking red hair, and she is an absolute ball of energy and she's wonderful. She's so cute, she loves life and she's super brave. And because it's a Boston Fern and this is my first ever go, and it was very brave for coming into my household and trusting me as an amateur, I went with Harrie because Harriet, and I loved it. And it's always so fun to me just naming my plants. You're going to hear a lot of the different names today as we go through, but what I want to check out first before we move on to any of the other plants is some of these things in here that we need to fix. And I think what I'm going to have to do is go and get myself a pair of scissors here, because we have some situations like this where this entire piece is just brown and dead. At very least, if we look down in here, I'm going to see if I can get my camera in there. There's a lot going on down here, lots of brown stuff, lots of stringy bits, and I wanted to see if I can clean it up a little bit. And one thing I did want to do at some point, but I need more time to figure out how to do it, I had considered propagating from Harrie, and one of the suggestions was basically to cut her in two, and it sounds vicious, but I know a lot of propagation happens like that, where you cut the root ball in half, and you plant them separately, and then they will like recover and regrow and you'll have two separate plants. But with her in the state that she's in, with so much like dead leaf, possible dryness and issues, I don't really know if I should risk it. Okay, so we're going to get right in here, and I'm going to start by finding the really obvious issues. Like this one right in here, you might be able to see this dead one that I showed off a moment ago. It's brown all the way down to the root. So I'm just going to take this off. The one thing I've never tried to do with Harrie is prune to try and get her into any kind of shape. I've just kind of let her grow. I'm learning. I'm still learning this whole time. I know I said that I've been doing this for 2 years, but again, I have to say, I am a total amateur. This is just something I'm doing for fun, and I'm still learning a lot of new stuff. I am absolutely here for anyone that knows anything about houseplants that wants to give myself and the other viewers a hint and some tips on how we can sort of avoid some of these common issues. Now, I think if it gets leggy, it's because it's reaching for light, and that is probably going to be very much more of an issue that I noticed because I was struggling to get the right lighting earlier on in the process. But I have noticed, although it's longer now, we do have a lot more fullness in some of these leaves. So I think that's one of those issues that I might have been able to not so much solve, but make be less of an issue at the moment. I do have some of these brown leaves on here. I'm just going through while we're speaking and taking some of the brown ones off, because if they're green, they're savable. If they're brown, they're done. This one has actually gone into the soil. You can't even see it's that thin. It's attached up here, but you follow it down, it's actually gone into the soil. And I'm like, I hope that's not a root, because that's a weird place for a root. Oh, I see. That's weird. Okay. I'm not really sure what that is. It's attached to something dead, but it almost seems like I've pulled up roots, which is really odd. So this piece that I'm holding was attached to the plant, but then when I tried to find the other end of it, I've got all of this out. I'm not entirely sure how that's happened, because it's like it's grown from the plant and gone into the soil and made a root with itself. And I've accidentally just pulled that up, but I'm not sure. I don't know. That's really interesting. I have never seen anything like that before, and I don't know what that means. Let me know if you know what that means. Like, should I not have pulled that? I obviously do not want to kill my plants. You are an interesting character, Harrie. You'd like to be known. There we go. She's looking a lot better. There's a few little stragglers down here that are just falling off, but I think overall, looking a lot better. There's a lot going on down here at the base of the plant, and I don't want it to choke itself out. I don't know if I need to put more soil in here. It's kind of a mess down there. And if anybody knows, like, what to do about this, let me know. Like, maybe I need to plant her deeper. Like, get some of these, like, really woody sticky out bits here. Maybe I need to make sure that's under. I was trying to follow the rule when I originally put her into her new pot of not putting it any deeper in the soil than it came when it was growing. I'm wondering now if that's something that I need to adjust. I have lots of other bigger pots. This one I believe is a 17 centimeter diameter, so I've got much that are like bigger than this, so we will be able to get her replanted. But that's all of the dead bits cut off of her. I think that's probably going to be much better than she was. She's not looking as sorry for herself. Some of the bits are looking a little bit bad, but the stems are still green. But what we'll do is we'll give her some nice good feed. And again, like I say, I might actually want to cover some of this up with some soil, but I don't know how much of that is roots and how much of that is new growth. I don't know how ferns work, but they're very pretty and I love them. So do I need to prune this? Let me know, or should we just let her grow wild? Like, do I need to cut some of this down a little bit? Let me get myself tidied up, and then we'll bring in the second house plant. My second house plant was a massive step up from my first, going from something as simple as a Boston fern up into a Chinese Aglaonema, and forgive me if I've said that wrong, I'm just a silly little amateur, but it was such a step up. I have it so far away from the camera right now. I'm having to reach full stretch to turn it around and show you because she is so tall. She came to me from a trip to a garden centre. I knew nothing about a Chinese Aglaonema, but I really wanted one, and I was like, you know what, I am going to bring one home. It looks absolutely gorgeous, and I'll learn about it when I get home. And this tall beauty is called Nemu, partly because Aglaonema and Nemu is kind of similar, but also because it reminded me, the Nemu thing reminded me of one of my favourite characters in the anime Bleach, who's the lieutenant of the captain who runs the research and development team, who he basically runs on poison, and Nemu always carries around an antidote to poison, and this creature here, our beautiful Aglaonema, is toxic. So that's why we're wearing gloves today, because we are going to be handling the leaves and we do not want to get any of that seeping into our skin. So what we're going to be doing with this one, First of all, we need to give it a dust. Same as all the others, got the waxy kind of leaves and it needs to have a bit of a clean. But also what we need to have a look at today, you might not be able to see it in here right now, like unless I was to specifically point one out, you wouldn't be able to see it, but I actually had an issue with a couple of my plants at one point a few months ago, where a couple of them had these little wiggly white worms, and I didn't really know what they were. My dad asked a friend and she said, oh, they're harmless, you know, just leave them be and they'll either die off or they'll just live in there and it'll be fine. So I didn't do anything about it, and eventually they did kind of die off. And I'll include a little video on screen so you guys can have a look. Warning, if you don't like wiggly worms, I will give you this warning now. Feel free to skip about 30 seconds ahead in the video because it's no longer than that. But they were there in the soil and I wasn't really sure what to do with them. And like I say, this woman said, they're fine, they're harmless, you don't need to do anything about it. And they did eventually die off, but now I have this issue. She's having to be held up by the stick right now. Look how wobbly she is. Do you see the way the soil is moving? I need to see if they've done any damage to the roots down here because this should be much more solid. All of my houseplants have been done with the exact same soil. So seeing how absolutely wobbly and loose all of that soil is down there, I'm a little worried that there's some damage done. So I need to get in there. I've been meaning to do it for a very long time. So we're going to have a look at it today together. We're going to go take her out to the shed and check it. But first, let's get and do the same thing, just dusting off the leaves. And again, this is another thing you can do with the paper towel. If you think you've got spider mites, if you just run the paper towel on the bottom of the leaf, if you get little tiny black dots, potentially it is spider mites. I thought I had a problem with that at one point, but then I gave the leaves a good wipe and nothing seems to have happened after that point. So I think if I did have them, I got rid of the problem pretty quickly. So it seems like it's a fairly easy thing to deal with if you get it early enough. I absolutely love the variegation on the leaves here. It's similar to the Calathea, where it's like the mottled kind of green look, but it's a little bit more chaotic than it's almost more a bit uniform on the Calathea that I've got. And again, my other plants, I'm looking over at them now on the other side of the room, and some of them have got much more uniform variegation and patterns, but I love the kind of like randomness of this. It's so beautiful. She also has grown a lot since I had her. Like the way I have to push her all the way to the back of the table so you guys can see the full height. When I first had her, she probably was only about to here. You can probably see it in the top of the camera. And then all of this new growth came afterwards. She has gotten so much taller than when I first had her. And if I can find a photo of when I first got her, I will put it on screen as well so you can have a look and see the comparison. It's been so good. This is my issue and I'm really sad about this. I had them behind my computer on my desk where my curtain is, and I think I accidentally ripped my curtain a bit too hard to close it one day, and it just snagged on this leaf and took a whole chunk out, and I feel really bad. Obviously this is not going to grow back properly, but the rest of the leaf is still undamaged. It hasn't killed the leaf off, so I think I'm just going to leave it there to show that she's battle worn, you know, she's hardy. She's absolutely thriving despite my inability to be careful, but it serves as a reminder to myself to just be more careful, really. So I'm just going to go and finish dusting off this leaf, and then I will meet you out in the potting shed where we will basically just take her out of the soil and have a look, because I need to see if there's any damage to the roots, and potentially because I don't know what these little creatures were, if they were eating the soil, that might be why she's wobbling. So I need to kind of see what's going on underneath there. So I will meet you in the potting shed. All right, so what we're actually just going to do, the first thing I need to do is just take this out. It's basically just a chopstick and a garden tie, because she was falling to the side, and we'll see whether or not she does it without the support now, but it seems like it's helped quite a bit because she was pushed over quite harshly before, but it seems she's a bit better now. But what we're going to do is have a look at the soil. I'm basically just going to pull her out so we can get a good look at the roots, and then we'll repot her afterwards. We have a little bit more of our soil left over, and if you're curious which one I'm using, I am using the Grow Buddha houseplant soil. It's got volcanic minerals, perlite, vermiculite and coconut coir in there. And if we have a quick look at a handful of it, you can see like a mixture of the little vermiculite and perlite white pieces in there, which give whatever nutrients that gives. And then there's these little balls as well, and I believe what that does is it helps with the drainage. So it gives good nutrients, gives good drainage, and we're using this for every one of our houseplants that we have. I'm a little scared to do this, but I know I have to. The soil is falling away from her roots really easily, and that's a little worrying to me. I'm not sure if it's supposed to come away that easy. Taking a look at the roots, they feel dry, which is, I guess, good, because I was worried that they were going to be just soggy and mushy, but lots of really, really strong roots. I think what I'll do, I could see some of these top roots here where they've got a little green. Some of these were sticking out the top of the soil. So I think what I'll do is when I put her back in, I'll put her a little deeper. But we're just gonna like leave her here for just one moment. You sit there, my love, and just make sure there's like nothing bad in here. There are a bunch of rocks in here. I think I put rocks at the bottom. There was a suggestion at one point to leave rocks in there for drainage, but I might take those out, to be honest. What is interesting with this particular plant, which I don't have with my other ones, is when I water Nemu, it's very strong smelling. Compared to the rest, it's exactly the same soil, which is why I'm confused. It does smell really, really strong, like the wet soil smell, the wet earth smell. I don't really get that with the other plants, and that's why I was kind of worried that there was some issues with the root or the soil in this one, is that maybe there was some like damage to the roots or issues with the soil. It's interesting, it feels very dry, and I know I gave her a water not too long ago, so what I might actually do with this one is when I repot her, I'm going to give her a bath, I think, after this. Make sure that all of this, because it's so dry feeling, I'm going to make sure that this all has a like really good soaking. But yeah, no, I can't see any particular issues in the soil itself. Like the soil looks fine. Yeah, all just looks normal. And like I say, looking at the roots, it is very balled up, but I think that's just what Aglaonemas do. But what I was worried about was that they were going to be mushy or dead, and they are a little bit on the dry side from what I can feel with the gloves on, but I think overall, like, I'm much happier with it now than what I was before. Like, I was so scared of what I was going to find under there, but it's seeming like she's actually okay. So I'm just going to put her to one side and we're going to refill this pot. So what we're going to do, just going to pop her back on top here. And I want to make sure that I sit her far enough down. Honestly, I think I have too much soil in here. I want to make sure that I cover all of the roots. So I'm just kind of digging a nice trench for her. Get all of those roots right in there. And then we're just going to top this all the way up with the houseplant soil. I have topsoil on the bottom, like half or so of this. I think maybe she's just destined to be wobbly, because as I'm repotting this, I'm finding it really hard to stop her from wiggling around. But I think maybe it's because of the way her root ball has got. I don't think she needs potting up just yet. So we're going to leave her in this, but I'm going to go and give her a nice healthy drink. I'm just kind of, I want to press it down a little bit, just kind of give her some structure. There we go, it's a little bit better. She's still wobbly, but she's better. So I'm going to take her inside and give her good water, and I will update you if anyone is curious whether or not this changes anything. I mean, looking at her, I do want her to be more upright like that, so I'm not sure what to do about it. I'm glad there was no lasting damage with her, because as I say, I was really worried when we had those little wormy things that they were basically just going to eat her alive. I was concerned. I was really not sure what I was going to find under there, but she looks healthy. From what little I know. If you guys have looked at this and gone, oh, that's bad, please let me know. Again, as I say, I'm an absolute amateur with this kind of stuff, so I am learning on the fly, but I think for right now, she looks healthy, she looks happy. If you guys have any advice on when it comes to repotting or feeding or checking for any issues like with the root ball or anything, please let me know, because I'm sure myself and other members of this community would love to know. But for right now, we're going to go and take her back inside and go and give her a good drink, and then we're going to move on to my Calathea, who is one of my favourites. So I will see you on the other side. That's very concerning. As I was walking, she fell out of the pot. I was just holding it and she just fell out. All right, we're back. She's in. I basically did the exact same thing, except put her a lot deeper. It looks about the same from the outside, but what doesn't look the same is my floor now. I'm going to have to clean that up later, but she's set much deeper than she was now, and hopefully she's not going to fall out along the way. So let me try that again, shall we? Now moving on to my beautiful moon worshipper. I Absolutely adore the characteristics of this one. This is a Calathea Makoyana, and it birthed the name of Mako. Now, if you guys didn't know, I am a kind of a fan of anime. Not a huge, nowhere an expert, but I do enjoy my anime. And I grew up on Yu-Gi-Oh! That was my first ever anime that I watched. I love it to this day. And there's a character in Yu-Gi-Oh! Called Mako Tsunami. He was absolutely hysterical. And I love them so much because they just love the ocean, and they come back later on in the series and are just like such a happy-go-lucky kind of guy. And because this is a Makoyana and I needed a name and I wanted something that was fun and also later find to be appropriate with the moon reference, is Mako. And you can probably tell from the angle that we're at here right now, it actually has a different underside color to the top. So it's got this like beautiful like dark green and light green variegation on the leaves. It is stunning. But underneath the leaves, it is this gorgeous burgundy red plum purple kind of color, and it's absolutely the most beautiful thing. The reason why I call it in my moon worshipper, it's actually a little bit surprising right now. It's kind of doing the thing a little bit, even though it shouldn't be because it's daytime, but the leaves generally will sit quite flat during the day, and then at night they go up and they go very straight, which is kind of doing a little bit now. You see this guy all the way back here standing up a bit taller than I thought he would be at this time of day, which is quite funny. But I like to call him my moon worshipper because, as I say, at night all of the leaves will go up, and you actually see the difference like during the day when it's all flat like that, trying to get the sun in, and it's just like it's raising its hands up to the moon, like praising the moon, and I absolutely adore it. It's such a fun characteristic, which again is fun with the Mako reference because his backstory is that he is a fisherman, and his dad was a fisherman, and they went out when he was a kid with his dad on the boat, and his dad got swept away in a big storm. And his story is that he's always trying to find his dad. He's always out on the ocean trying to find him, and he's always trying to tame the ocean because, you know, he had this like traumatic event essentially as a child, and he's trying to tame the ocean, and with the ocean obviously come the tides. And I just thought it was beautiful that like the situation with this plant is that when the moon rises, it changes, and it's just, I don't know, everything just fits so perfectly in my head. We do need to do a little bit of maintenance on Mako today, though, a tiny little bit. It's not too bad. It's all just kind of dead around here, and I kind of want to get rid of the old stuff, the dead stuff that maybe died off in the winter, just to kind of give way for some new growth to come through. So what we're just going to do is go around here and just very gently just get rid of all of these dead, dry, leafy bits, because I don't want it to be trying to come through in a spot where it can't do that because it's just full of dead leaves. So I'm just going to go around and do that, get some of these out. And then I think the only other thing we need to do for Mako in terms of maintenance today is just giving the leaves a dust, because that is one thing you definitely need to do, especially when you've got these waxy leaves. Is you can kind of see it a little bit on the camera, is they collect dust so easily that you do need to give them a wipe off every now and then just to make sure they can properly photosynthesize. So we will give them a nice tidy in a dust in a bit as soon as we've got these dead bits out of this. All of the dead stuff's out. We don't need to do anything with the soil. This was repotted at the same time as I did Harrie and Nemu, so we don't need to redo this one at all. But what we are going to do again is give it the feed. We'll do that all together at the end so we can make up the right amount for stuff. But looking a lot better. So let me just go and get a piece of paper towel, because that's all you really need just to dust it off. Now, as I'm going around and doing this stuff, what I can actually also see and have remembered to tell you guys is I did have to do a little bit of cutting. This leaf, for example, is one of the ones I had to do it for. You can kind of see the edge of this one. This is a good example here. You see right on the tip here, it's gone kind of brown. Some of the leaves on here had been in the sun too long, like in the direct sun, while I was still trying to find the right position for it. And some of them ended up getting burnt and scorched on the ends. So some of the leaves I ended up just cutting off the brown bits, because once they go brown like that, you cannot save the brown bits. They're not going to become green again. And it's just, it doesn't harm the plants. As I learned, I did do it only on one leaf at first to make sure it was going to be okay. And it was fine. It did not hurt the plant at all to cut the leaf, but it just kind of makes it a little bit more visually appealing, really. Doesn't really do anything to hurt it or like help it heal. There is nothing for it to heal. So we just cut the old bit off, which was just burnt and brown, and it's looking a lot better. We do have a little bit of like spotty patches on this one. I'm not sure exactly why, but like maybe the sun's come through in like specific spots. A couple of little dotty bits, but it's not too bad for sure. I definitely do want some more Calatheas. I absolutely love them. I think they're so beautiful. This one is sort of like medium size. You can kind of tell from my hand how big this one is. I know you can get smaller ones, and I know you can definitely get bigger ones as well, but I am trying to be very conservative with my space and try not to buy too much. Which again is why I say I'm so proud of myself for not filling my entire space with them, because this has been an entire learning process, you know, from Harrie through to Nemu, which is the Chinese plant, through to this one, which is, I believe, a South American, like, common tropical plant. The conditions were all so different. It was all a learning curve, but I am definitely learning a lot, and I'm sure you guys, if you have your own houseplants at home, have learned these sort of same things where some of them have their own characteristics and personalities. Some of them, like, you think would be right in a certain condition, but then in your own space it actually ends up being a bit different, and you have to adjust. And that's what it's all about, is adjusting and giving it the right conditions for the particular plant. And overall, most of my plants have done so well. It's mostly either been a case of I've forgotten to water them, or they've been in the direct sun, which is now not a problem where we are. So hopefully now, once I can get the watering down, we'll be in a much better position. It's all just nice and tidied up now, and they're going to go and get a nice good drink in a moment. So say goodbye to Mako for right now. They're going to go and live back over here for a brief moment while we go and get the next one. Here we have our snake plant, the name of which is Argyle, because my dad chose two different names, and when he let the plant almost die, I adopted it and went with the name of the two that I preferred. But this one actually is the plant which has travelled the furthest to get to us, because this guy was brought back all the way from Tenerife to the UK. I had to convince myself not to buy any houseplants when we were away, because there was a beautiful garden store literally just at the bottom of the hill from where we were staying. And I'm like, I really want a houseplant, and it would be so cool to have a houseplant from Tenerife that's made it all the way home. But obviously I couldn't bring it back with me on the plane, could I? But my parents had actually driven to Tenerife. They got the ferry across, and they spent like a week traveling there and a week traveling back. And they were able to bring something home in the car, but they didn't tell me they were getting this one. This was basically a surprise. They showed up on the day. And the main reason I didn't want to bring anything back for myself in the car was because I was worried it was just going to get too hot, and it's kind of difficult to water it properly and let it drain and have the right conditions and not be shocked by a week's worth of travel across the country. But somehow, like, without knowing anything about houseplants, my dad chose probably the hardiest type of houseplant to be able to do the travel. And honestly, I think it survived so well, partly because it is a snake plant, who are very, very resilient kind of creatures. You don't really need to like worry too much about if you forget to water them, because as far as I'm aware, they are quite drought resistant, and they don't need the most amount of light. Of all the plants I've got, this one is probably the one that can deal with the best low light conditions. So being in the footwell of a car for a week probably was, you know, it wasn't too bad. It was a journey and an ordeal for sure, but it made it. And what actually happened when it arrived, it was in a pot that was like easily half this size. So you see how big this guy is. It was in a pot that was like this big. And this leaf here that's facing us right now, I can tell you it's the new leaf because I can see where it's positioned. It's like further away from the side from everything else. And it was pushing itself to the point where the entire pot was squished and it needed more room. So I've used my general same like houseplant mix that I've used for everything else, repot it into this bigger one, and it really has allowed this to thrive. This new leaf here is almost as tall as all of the other leaves in the pot, and it actually also has a little bit of new growth coming through as well. So I'm hoping once I give this a good feed, it's actually going to really start shooting up this summer and get some really good growth on it. There is a tiny little bit of discoloration and stuff in places that I was like a little worried about, but it doesn't seem to be affecting the plant overall. Like you see this big sort of tear here. I'm not entirely sure what that is, whether it's a thing from sun, maybe it was trauma, if I've accidentally caught it on something and like it's sort of partly ripped. It's not ripped all the way through, but like I can sort of see through, like I can see the fibers. So the actual like leaf itself is okay, but that little tear is, you know, it's having some issues. But overall it's not seeming to be affecting the overall health of the plant, but there's like a little bit of like browning around the edges, which I think is probably just getting it right in the position of the sun, but overall it's not been too bad. So maintenance today, all we really need to do is just give it a dust, just clean the leaves off. So handy dandy paper towel is coming back, and we're just gonna do the same thing as all of the other ones that we've done this for, and we're just going to clean the leaves off. You can see it is quite dirty. I haven't done this one in a bit, so this is very much needed. Today we're going to just go through and give all of them a nice good brush off. And the reason I'm wearing gloves for this, the same as like with Nemu and with any others like this, is because the leaves can be somewhat toxic if handled. So just to make sure that I am covering myself properly and just protecting myself, I'm just using gloves. I think that's probably going to do it for this one. It's all we really need to do. There's no trimming that needs to be done. Slight brownness on the edge of the leaf, but it's not too bad overall. So this guy's going to be okay. This is going to go and sit back over there with the ranks. And then, yeah, this one just kind of lives on my shelf, to be honest. It doesn't need the best amount of light. Like, in comparison to everything else, which needs better sunlight, this one can definitely handle less. So this one is one that tends to sit on my shelf. It's almost too tall for the shelf now, though. So the tallest leaves I kind of have to put outside of the shelf, and the rest of it sits underneath. But it's starting to grow out of that spot a little bit now. So we might have to find a new spot for it. Maybe I can just go back in the living room. I brought it into my room because I thought it might be lonely in there with no other plants, but I guess that's just an excuse to buy more houseplants, right? We're going to take a look now at my beloved chainsaw. I say beloved because they are an absolute badass punk in name and in nature. I have to be honest with you guys. Chainsaw's been through it. This has survived so much. They are an absolute powerhouse, and I'm so proud of them. Because I've messed up on multiple occasions, which we'll go over in a minute. So we've had Chainsaw for about 8 months now. I do see a little extra doer in here that's not supposed to be in there, so you need to come out. I don't know what you are, but you're a little grassy thing that's not supposed to be in here. So let's take that. Similarly to Harrie that we got from an Aldi, we actually got Chainsaw from a Lidl, and I'm surprised. You'd think a supermarket wouldn't necessarily get the best quality of plants in, but Chainsaw has done an absolute wonder. She is absolutely beautiful. I love the variegation on the leaves. The underside, you see like the veins are quite red. Let's see me try and get under one of these without hurting them. But you've got like the really deep red veins on them. I don't have the card for it anymore, but I believe Chainsaw is a type of begonia. And if I remember correctly, it was something like a Begonia Rex something, which is kind of where I got the name Chainsaw from in the first place, was because Rex sounded so badass. It's like, oh, begonia, lovely, cute little begonia. And then it's this spiky bugger that's called a Rex. So I went with a heavy name like Chainsaw. It's got the serrated kind of vibes on the edge of the leaves. It's like kind of looking like a chainsaw, and I kind of loved it. And trust me when I say they've lived up to their name. So I actually had a couple of issues with Chainsaw, and I'm very, very proud of them for surviving both situations. The first situation I had, I'll show you a picture of what they looked like on the day that we got them. Basically, what happened was I put them in my room with all of my other houseplants, and something just wilted, and I don't really know why. You can kind of, if we get it in here, and we can see like the stems are standing very strongly upright. When I put them in my room, it went from such a full bloom, everything just kind of wilted. And when I brought it out to try and do some maintenance and see if it was okay, it was the gentlest, like I'm not pulling this at all. I'm just touching it and moving the leaf around. Just doing that, at least 75% of the leaves just came off. They broke at the stem, and it wasn't even so much that it like snapped, it just separated. It's like it wilted and just went soggy or something, and I don't know if it was a light situation or water situation, but they went from this wild sort of blooming beautiful state to basically nothing left, and I really, really thought I'd killed the whole plant. So I brought it out to the kitchen. It was warmer, there's better light out here. Tried to be a little bit more on it when it came to the soil and the water situation. They have been repot since we got them, and I've given them some proper houseplant soil, but since it's been put in the new soil, it seems to be doing okay. It got over the wiltedness and it started to sort of grow back a little bit healthier, and it was growing very, very slowly, but it was definitely not like wilted and floppy anymore. It went back to being upright, and I was like, great, fantastic, we saved them. And then I did the stupidest thing. I like a month or so after that situation happened, I tried to take a selfie with them because I was feeling badass and I wanted to take a cute picture with my houseplant. And I had my headphones on, which were attached to my phone with the cable. And I was about to go out for the day. I had my glasses on and I was taking a cute picture. And as I stood up, my cable got stuck under the leaves and came up, and it ripped half of the leaves out of it. And I felt so bad. I wanted to cry because this creature that had suffered so much and was starting to come back strong, what little leaves were left on it from the wilting situation, half of them got ripped out by my stupid headphone cable and my stupid pride and my ego taking photos of myself. But from that state where it only had like 2 or 3 leaves left, this is where we've been left. And I think Chainsaw is a freaking badass. I love them so much. They are such a powerhouse and they are living up to their punk rebellion nature, their strength and tenacity. They're not letting any of that situation stop them. They've come back so strong, and I can see a lot of new growth has come through since that situation. They've stayed in my kitchen over to one side. No more selfies have been taken with them. I promise you, I'm taking the absolute best care of them that I can now. It does feel quite heavy, so it's almost like it's retaining its water better than some of the other ones. But this one also was one of the ones that was most recently bottom fed, where you sit it in the water and it feeds up, and it can sometimes, like, basically giving it a bath, just it soaks the water up and it takes it up. And some of the plants I think might need a bath today, because some of the times that when I'm watering it, the water's just going through and it's just dripping straight out of the bottom. So some of them might need a bit of a soaking, but this one has been done fairly recently, so it shouldn't need it, but just a nice good bit of houseplant feed, it should do them well. So my Begonia Rex, my Chainsaw, my heart, my absolute just symbol of courage and bravery and strength, is doing so well. We have rather an intriguing character next. This is Fig. They are not a fig tree. They are actually a citrus tree, and me being me, thinking I was hilarious, decided to call it Fig because it's quite clearly not a fig. But this one's interesting because we've had this since pretty much the beginning of December, and we didn't really know what it was. We still honestly don't know what it is, to be real with you. You see this bit here and then this one up here, there actually were fruit on this at one point, and I'll put a photo up on screen of what it looked like when we first got it. Pretty much, like, I've potted it up since we've been back here, but the stalk is still very woody. Some of these bits over here are very green, so we're thinking this is maybe a bit of new growth. I have a little bit down here which is green as well. I'm trying not to touch it too much because I'm seeing there are ants on it because it's been outside. And that's a little worrying, seeing how many ants are on this. I might need to go and give this a bit of treatment because I don't want them just eating the entire thing. We didn't really know what this was when we got it, and I don't really know why I got it. I guess I just was hoping it was either a lemon or a lime tree, but it was in the houseplant section for like indoor plants. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to see what happens. It had 2 little green fruit on it, and we honestly had no idea what they were. I just thought it would be fun to try and grow a citrus tree and see what happens. It was, like I say, it was in the houseplant section, so it was an indoor plant, and we got it in December, so it's been inside throughout pretty much most of its life. It's been living outside for about a month now because it's been getting warm enough outside that I can leave some things out there. So it's been living outside in the hopes that we might see some progress in the growth, maybe see the start of some new like buds and stuff. And if I turn it, where is it? Back here somewhere. I don't know if I can get it on camera. It's a little thing. But right up in here, you might be able to see it just there. I might be able to zoom in for you. We've got like the tiniest little round thing, which is a different colour to everything else on this plant. So potentially that's a new fruit budding. Maybe we'll get a new flower here. But since we've had it, we've only had 1 flower. It was in like February, maybe early March. 1 little white flower, and all the petals just kind of fell off and it was done. And we've seen absolutely no sign of anything new on it since. But at one point, like I say, you can see it here and here. We actually did have 2 fruits on this, and they went from the greeny kind of colour, like almost like a dark lime colour, to a yellowy colour, and then it went to like an orangey yellow, and then they just fell off. So we don't know whether or not they were overripe and they fell off because they were done and we should have picked them sooner. Whether or not they fell off because they were unhealthy, we have no idea. So we cut one open just to kind of see, like, is this a lemon? Is it an orange? We really don't know. Clearly it's not a lime because it started green and then it matured into a yellowy orange. So we cut into it and we couldn't peel it, and it didn't have what looked to be segments, so we're not sure that it's an orange. But I had like the very, very slightest little taste of the juicer inside of it, and it was not pleasant. I have to tell you that much. I don't know how to explain it. Maybe it was sour. I don't know. I'm not very good at explaining tastes, but it didn't taste good. I'll tell you that much. We were having a look at it and we were considering whether or not it was either some type of grapefruit or maybe like a dwarf mandarin. Honestly, we don't know. And if anybody has any ideas on how we can identify this plant, let me know. I unfortunately didn't get any pictures of the fruits as they fell off. I really should have done, but I am noticing we are having some of these leaves being eaten. I'm seeing a lot of ants on this, so we're going to have to deal with that. Ants is the biggest problem in our garden. We do have some slugs eating some of our plants as well, but we've put some little slug pellets down and hopefully that will deter them from doing it. But we have ants everywhere and I don't want to put ant powder in with my veggies. So if anybody's got any advice on like natural good ways of getting rid of ants, then that would be awesome. Like I would absolutely appreciate any assistance on pests. We don't know what we're doing in this garden. We don't want to kill off any of the plants or like put anything bad in there that say like it's some kind of pesticide, but then it goes into the fruit and the veggie that we're growing, and then when we eat it, it's then poisonous to us. You know, we don't want to do that. We don't want to risk it. So this one doesn't need repotting at all at the moment. It's doing okay. It's in a pot. It has been pot up since then. It was probably about 3/4 this size, and we put up to this one. So this one's fine. And yeah, they're going to stay outside, I think, throughout the rest of the spring and the summer. Like I say, we do have a little bit of new growth coming in through here. So I guess we'll just see what happens. Now, when we got Fig, we did not get Fig alone. And by we, I do mean me, because I can't help myself. Whenever I end up at any kind of garden centre, I mean, to be fair, we didn't even end up at a garden centre for these. We were at Home Base, which is sort of like an all-purpose kind of centre. And they had a section for houseplants. And I'm terrible. I can't be trusted because they always put the houseplants by the tills. So you got to pay, like, you know, you've gone around, you've got everything you need, you got to pay, and then I look across and it's just this beautiful jungle of all these wonderful colours and patterns, and look at this, like look at the colour on it, it's so beautiful. How could I leave it? There's no way I was walking out that day without another houseplant. So we had Fig, who was our citrus tree, and then we have Titus, who, forgive me if I'm pronouncing this wrong, is a Dracaena, Dracaena, I don't know. Y'all can tell me if I'm saying it wrong in the comments. But it's a dragon series, whatever that means. And I love it. He is absolutely just gorgeous, and you can sort of see the coloration in the leaves where it's like this lime green, sort of like almost neon-y green if you get it in the right light. Light green on the outside with a dark green stripe in the middle, and then like the little white bits around the edges. And he is so pretty. He's grown since I've had him. He definitely is bigger than when I got him, but again, this was only in December, so if he's grown, it's been recent growth, and he's probably got a long way to go. I do need to do a tiny little bit of maintenance on him today, because you might be able to see some of the ends of these leaves, especially this one. You can see got a tiny bit of scorching right on the tips of the leaves, and as we've been saying, if they go brown, they're not going to heal. So it's a case of just, I don't think it hurts the plant to leave it on there, but obviously it's like somewhat unsightly. Just for the sake of making it visually appealing, we might just like cut some of the ends off, just snip it back. But more importantly, after we've done that and we've given it a dust, we do need to repot him. You can see his roots are coming out through the bottom of this, and they have been for a hot minute, so I do need to get in here and give this a proper good repot. We are going to give him much more space. I believe this is a 17 centimetre pot. Yeah, 17 centimetres. So we are going to move out to the potting shed and go and get him a new home. The name for him, if anybody is curious, Titus. Actually, this was one of the plants that took me the longest to name, and I wanted something good for him. I was trying to think like dragon series. Is there a dragon related name I could think of? And I couldn't think of anything, but I really wanted a nice strong name for him. And it took me about a week to come up with the name. A lot of my plants I name within like a day of having them. Some of them I named before I even got to the checkouts, but yeah, Titus took me a week to name, and I actually do think Titus really suits him. So we're going to give him a little dust off on his leaves because he needs a little bit of that maintenance, and just, like I say, just clean up the edges, and then we'll head up to the potting shed and get him a new home, basically. So let me go get my scissors. Okay, so I'm going to be real with you. I looked for some pots to repot Titus into because I knew my mum had bought some more for us. I didn't realise they were quite this deep, and I think that's probably a little bit too much for Titus right now. So what we're going to do, I've actually just found this other pot here, a little bit bigger, not by too much. It's probably 2 or 3 centimetres bigger, which honestly is probably going to be fine. I have found generally when it comes to repotting, you don't want to go too big too fast. You kind of just want to like slowly level it up, and it's currently in a 17 centimetre pot. This is 29 centimetres and 10 litres capacity, so that's probably going to be a bit too much for now. Excuse my mess. It's fine, everything's okay. But yeah, so we're going to use this pot right here, I think. Just get some general houseplant soil in and around the edge, and then fill it up. Pop him in there, and it'll be a little bit extra room than what he has right now. So we have a little bit of this left from the last one. We did buy ourselves another one in between filming, so we have enough to do the rest of the projects we have to do today. So I figured, let me just get this done in here with you guys right now. So we're just going to throw some in the bottom of here. We probably need to open the second bag, to be honest, but we'll see what we can get done first. So I am going to make use of this big bucket, basically just because I want something to catch any loose soil in. So, oh, all right, Titus, let's go. This will be fine. I'm just going to hold him very gently. I'm not pulling at all. I'm just trying to use gravity to shake. This might be a little more difficult than I had previously anticipated. This is fine. Here he goes. Oh, I got you. Look at those roots. Oh, tasty. Good job, buddy. All right, in you go. He's sticking out of this a little bit. So what I might actually do is just manipulate a little bit of the soil we have down there underneath him and just kind of put it up around the edges. And then basically we're just going to fill up around the sides. It is only a little bit of space in here. If I get right in here and have a look, there is literally only like a couple of centimetres extra, but hopefully there'll be enough extra room in there that it will actually be able to just continue growing. I wish I had some pots in the intermediary size, but this is the best I have, I think, available. Yeah, I just went and did another quick look around the shed and the garden just to see if we had any that are a little bigger than this, and we really don't. We have some which are deep, which we don't really need. We don't need it to be too deep. If anything, we want it a little bit wider and a little bit deeper. But a lot of the ones I'm finding is probably the same diameter, and it's just really, really deep, which, you know, it's not really going to matter too much. So we're just going to fill up around the edges as generally as we can and just essentially just try and fill up the gaps. Me being a tiny bit disappointed, by the way, that when the new houseplant soil arrived, half the bag is empty, so that's a bit of a shame. I think it's what happens with, is it capitalism? Is that the right word? Consumerism? Whichever word it is, that basically means that you get the same amount of packaging and less amount of the actual item. Literally, I open it up and more than half of the bag is just air, which is a bit sad, but at least we have enough, I think, to finish the project. So let me get my hands dirty and I'll get in here. So I'm just trying to like really stuff it down the side because honestly it was hard to get it into the gaps. Just wasn't quite enough room in here to be able to do it cleanly, so we are making a little bit of a mess of the bench, but honestly I just want to make sure that as many of the holes down the side are filled as possible, and then we'll just put like a teeny little layer on the top as well just to make it look even. I think we're about there, about as good as we're going to get here, I think. There we go, just getting nice and settled in. So I think that will do us here. He's got a little bit extra room, and yeah, not a lot of extra space, but just enough. I think that is going to be good. His roots aren't going to be poking at the bottom anymore, and this will do, I reckon, for at least the next year, depending on how he grows this summer, that is, anyway, because if we have a look at how huge this guy is, he's already, like, all of this is like new growth up here, I think. So if he has a sudden growth spurt over the spring and the summer this year, he might be getting potted up sooner than we are anticipating. But in any case, he's had a bit of a trim. So all of the bits which were like burnt and scorched, like everything I could get off. Obviously here it's a little bit more difficult, but I don't mind it too much. But we've cut off the ends where we can. Gave it a good dust off so he's nice and clean again. And yeah, he has his new home. So we're going to go and give him a nice bit of the feed along with everything else. And then we have one more green friend to show you. And by green, I do mean green and purple and silver. I have left the prettiest one for last. So if you want to find out what that is, we will have that coming up next after my little message to say please like and subscribe if you like this content. You don't have to, but it makes me smile if you do. So feel free to do that if you want to. But let's move on to my newest addition to my houseplant collection, Aurora. And as promised, here is our most recent addition. An absolute glorious, beautiful tapestry of green and purple and silver. And I absolutely love her to pieces. She is the first of my plants and hopefully the first of many to come when I find space for them, which is a hanging plant. That's why they're currently up on a couple of extra pots right now, just so I can actually show her off without like all of her leaves getting crushed. But if I get one of these up close, you guys can have a good look at these. Like, if I shine them in the light, look how beautiful. Isn't she just the most gorgeous thing? She is a Tradescantia. It says Tradescantia mix. I don't really know what that means in comparison to other Tradescantias, but she is a hanging plant and we do need to do a tiny little bit of maintenance. But first, I guess, tragedy turned happy accident that Bob Ross would be proud of. She has already grown, I would say, a little bit since we've had her. I bought her in March of this year and it's now towards the middle end of May. So about 2 months we've had her. But the very first day that I had her, literally, we hadn't even left the car park of the garden centre. I was trying my absolute damnedest to be careful getting in the car with her so that I didn't do anything to break her. And one of these long tendrils, the longest tendril that we had, managed to get itself wrapped underneath me. So I sat down on the end of it and then I tried to move her and it just snapped somewhere like up here. And a whole bit came off and it was really upsetting. I almost cried in the car. I felt so bad. I was really angry with myself. But on the drive home, I sat down to myself and I was like, no, you know what? Use this as an opportunity. The plant itself is not dead. Look at this lush, beautiful growth. There's plenty of good stuff in here. This one's even curling up on itself here, like doing absolutely whatever it wants to. So what I decided to do is to use my accident to try for the first time doing some propagation. I'm proud of myself for turning something bad into something good. Shame how it came about, but let me show you what I've been working on. This is my project. 3 tendrils in a jar for various different reasons. So the first one is in here because I don't know which is which, by the way. I'm just holding them up, but one of these is the original one that snapped off. Another one fell off. I think it was caught. There was a gentleman that came around to help me with my computer, and the day that he came round, like an hour after he left, I found a piece on the floor, and I think maybe he just like bumped into it with his gear bag or something. Totally fine, like don't blame him. It was like kind of in the way. And then the other one, I don't really know what happened. I have 3 in here and I'm not sure why. Basically what I did is I just put them in this cup of water, and if we have a look, it's been sitting in this for 2 months and it's just grown a bunch of roots on it. If I get this right up close to the camera, you can have a good look at this. So basically, all I did was I kind of just made sure, I know one of the rules with this is to try and kind of get it around like where there's like a bump. But we found like a little nodule like around like where the leaves were growing from. You find like a little nodule like up in here, something like this. And around there, that's sort of like where you want to cut it. And we kind of just, I made it clean, nice clean cut on it, and then we put these all in here. Actually, this might be the most recent one. These are little tiny little ones. But this one I did have to start again because I was moving them around to water it, and it accidentally snapped. So all of the roots which would grow in that time were just gone. So what we're going to be doing with this today is making a second plant. I've never tried to do it this way before, but I'm hoping it's going to be all right. So because this one is called Aurora, because the colours just kind of reminded me of the Aurora Borealis, the northern lights, especially when you get it in the light and it shimmers and it's this gorgeous silvery shimmer. I decided that this one's going to be called North for the northern lights. little tiny baby North. And I thought it was cute. So we're going to go and take this out to the shed and use the remaining houseplant soil and have a look and see with all of the roots that have grown on these now as to whether or not we can get this to, I don't know, take root in some soil. It's been in here literally since day one. So some of them have had a little bit less growth, but I believe it's this one here, like the one with all of the roots on it. This was the one that came off in the car and it's still absolutely just perfectly healthy. So beautiful and not a single brown leaf on it. Unlike Aurora, who has a couple of bits. We need to do a little bit of maintenance on her. For example, if we take a look around the back here, this one, out of nowhere, just brown. So we're just going to go around and make sure we take any of those ones out. I'm trying to make sure as well that nothing gets too tangled, because this does have a tendency to kind of want to go up. You see this one up here we had a look at earlier on. It trained itself to go upwards, which is fine. I have no problem with that, but I also need to make sure it's not like strangling itself. This one here is really long. It's so pretty. Look at it go. So I'm hoping I can get some more hanging plants. I have a bare wall in my room that I'm thinking I want to turn into some shelves, just super basic shelves, but maybe put some hooks underneath it so that I can hang plants under them. At the moment, I'm hanging Aurora off of the side of my bookshelf, and she kind of is at a bit of an angle, doesn't really sit very well. But what I would love is to maybe have some shelving units on the wall where we can have stuff on top, like have some books, imagine some stacked books like that, and then a hook underneath it so it's not touching the wall or anything under it, and then hang some plants underneath. And I think that would be really gorgeous. But I think it would be really gorgeous. I would love to get some pothos and, you know, some like flowery things and other beautifully coloured ones like this, because I've never seen anything with the colours of this Tradescantia until I saw her, and I was like, I can't leave this building today without her. So I think that's probably it for all of the leaves we need to cut off. I will just do a check just in the top before we go, but then what we're going to do is take a little North outside, and we're going to go out to the potting shed, find a little pot suitable for her, and let's get the little baby going. It's like Aurora's child. It's my first ever propagation experiment, and I'm hoping it really works. Like, there's lots and lots of roots on these. Never expected this to actually work and to get any roots on these. So the fact that we have lots of roots to work with, I have hope. And as before, we are just going to be using the same Grow Buddha houseplant soil. It's been working out for me so far. As I say, the only thing that I'm like a little bit irked about is just how little there is in the bag. But to be honest, we only needed a small amount to do what we needed to do today. So it's enough. But in terms of its actual quality, it has been really good for my plants. I think overall, like, it seems to have been okay. Like, I know I said I had some issues with some like fungus gnats and some of those little wiggly worm things that I don't really know what they are, but they weren't in all of my plants, and it didn't happen the second I used this. I've been using this soil since I was repotting, and I didn't have any issues with this the first time around. It sort of more happened when I moved here from my old house, so I don't know whether or not it was like a change in circumstance, like maybe they got too damp in the area that we're in, changing conditions overall, but I haven't had any other problems with this soil whatsoever. I don't really know how deep I want these to go, but what I'll do is because I took some of the leaves off, I didn't want any of the leaves sitting in the water. It means we have quite a lot of this stem piece here, so what I might do is down to the joint more or less is put as much of this under here as I can. This is again all very experimental for me right now, because I've never tried doing this like at all. I've never tried propagation whatsoever, and especially now doing this, I might actually take this one leaf off of the middle here just because I don't want it getting buried underneath. But yeah, doing this, it looks like it's going to work. I really would love for it to work, but it's all completely new to me, and like seeing how soggy these roots are, I'm really hoping if they just sit in this soil, they are going to be okay. Like, I'm just kind of going to sit them in, and then we're just going to fill it up with the rest of the soil. And I sort of just want it to come off in 3 different directions so it has plenty of room to hang. And we're just going to top this off. Pretty much I'm arranging it in the same sort of way as it looks like it is on the other plant. Make sure this is above the soil, but just up to that, like just before the knuckle on all of these bits. Just make sure they've got some room to hang, but plenty of soil on top. All right, I think that will do us. I've left a tiny little bit of soil. There's barely anything in this, but I've left a little bit in case you guys like through the previous parts of the video. If anybody's left any comments about, especially my fern, where I was wondering if I should bury it a little bit deeper, like the rest of that soil I'm keeping to one side, so if I do need to cover that up in any way, I have at least a little bit left. I really do think I was shortchanged with this, but it's fine, it's done. But yeah, so here we are. Got our 3 little bits hanging off the side here. And I'm hoping that it's going to be strong enough in here that it's going to be okay. Let's just get the soil off the leaves. We don't want that on there. I guess we'll find out what happens. I'll update you guys on this if anybody wants to know how this goes, now that it's in the pot and living its life, to see whether or not this grows. It's short enough on each side right now that it's actually able to just sit as a normal pot, but obviously if it does start to grow longer, it is going to outgrow this and it's just going to end up sitting on the bottom. So it's actually going to be quite interesting. We'll be able to visibly see if there's any like further growth from this. If it gets any longer, it'll then start touching the surface it's on. So if you guys would like to know an update on this in the future, let me know. I'm going to go and take this greeny yellow water and go and feed some of my other plants with it because I can. But yeah, thank you so much for being here for this journey. I'm going to go and take you outside now to go and do our outro, but we'll go and give everything a nice good feed. Let's go take North to your new home. I just wanted to get you guys a nice shot of it outside and see how absolutely beautiful the colours are on this. Look at it, it's so pretty. Oh, I love this creature so much. I'm so glad we were able to save some of these pieces. So hopefully it's going to grow okay inside. It's going to stay in my room with all of the other ones. Pretty much where Aurora is. Aurora hangs, but we're going to go and put this inside in my room, and I will let you guys know if you are curious along the way of how this does. But for now, let's go and get some feed and let's go feed my plant, shall we? This is the feed that I have. I used it last season and it seemed to be okay. None of my plants suffered. Whether or not they actually get a boost, it was really hard to tell, but it's just called Baby Bio. Shake the bottle and add 10 millilitres or a full cap to 1 litre of water, and that's basically what you need to do, is just dilute it. Some might want it a little bit more diluted, and when it comes to feeding, if you've got any houseplants and you're doing feed, just maybe just do a little bit of research beforehand and check, because some of this might want to be a little bit less diluted, a little bit more concentrated depending. Yes, it's seaweed infused, it's organic. I don't know anything else about it, but it seems to work. And it does say to apply it weekly in the growing season. So what I might do is give it a good feed now. I'll make a note of it, and then every 1 to 2 weeks up until the summer, we will give it a little bit of this and see if... I already ran away a little bit, and then we'll see if this works. So let's go take this inside. And that is us done for today. So thank you so much for coming along on this journey with me and just enjoying the greenery with me, you know. And if anybody wants to know any more about the particular plants I've got, I can look them up and see if I've got any particular, like any of the Latin names for anything. I can make sure I'm putting all those in the comments. If you guys want to know, let me know. And if there's anything else that you want to know from me, or any advice that you want to give to me or the community, please do. I appreciate anything that you guys can let me and the viewers know. I'm still learning. As I say, I've been on this journey, I'm calling it, for the last 2 years, by which I mean I've been collecting plants and seeing if they survive. So if there's anything I can do to improve that you've seen me do wrong or anything, please do let me know. I'm open for learning. But for now, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate every one of you for hanging out on this journey. I'm sure there's going to be more plants incoming in my life. Probably very soon, because I know me, I know what I'm like. Next time we go to a garden centre, I'm not going to be able to resist. But I will let you guys know if we get any more, like we might do some little short videos or something, just showing them off. And if you guys want an update video at any point, do let me know. We'll do like at the end of the year or something to see the progress throughout the year and see how it goes. And no doubt, if I do get anything new, you will see it on Blue Sky. So if you don't follow me over on Blue Sky, but you would like to keep updated more often than here on the YouTube, please go find me on Blue Sky, same name, Mad Melina. You'll find me there. And if you like any of this content and you want to see me do some more stuff, I also do a lot of gaming stuff. So if you're not subscribed here, please feel free to. And also, you can go and find me on Twitch if you want to. I do some live streaming over there where we do some creative streams and play some games. So if you vibe, just come find me in the places. For now though, guys, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you guys for hanging out with me on this journey, and I will see you in the next one. Remember, friends, it's always tea time somewhere in the world. Bye bye.